Welcome to Wednesday morning at the deck. We do this every Wednesday here. It's called 1 Million Cups. Raise your hand if it's your first time here. So yeah, we got some new faces. Well, thank you guys for coming out. This is a really great event if you're looking to get plugged into the local startup community, meet some fellow entrepreneurs, and get a chance to actually learn by asking and participating in Q&A. Because later today you're going to hear from two local business owners. And they're going to share their whole story, and you'll be able to ask them in Q&A literally anything you want, from how they started the company, how they raised money, how they think about entrepreneurship. So as you're sitting here listening, please think of questions that you want to ask during Q&A, and we'll be coming around with the mic later on for that. As I mentioned earlier, we do have an app, so check that out on the App Store. It's a great way to check in, see who else is here, and also give feedback to the presenters. Speaking of which, these are our two. There we go. These are our two presenters that we have this morning. First, we're going to have Chelsea from Fastest Labs, and then second, we'll have Raina from Energient. Hopefully I'm saying that right. And thank you to our sponsors. So this event is put on by a whole team of volunteers who you see up here, myself, Sauber, Isabel, Michael in the back, Freddie, and a few others. So we're all volunteers, and then we also have sponsors that provide us with the coffee. So .Next Media, thank you to them for providing us with coffee today. Michael K. Bruder Productions over there in the back shooting video for us. If you have any video needs, definitely hit him up right over there. Unfortunately, we don't have the two breakfast treats this morning, but they're kind of our breakfast. I know, everybody collected. It's sad, okay. But yeah, you can tweet them and let them know you missed them. And hopefully they'll be back next week. And then lastly, of course, we want to thank the Deck. They're an amazing venue here. If it's your first time at the Deck, that's the Dallas Entrepreneur Center. A lot of cool startup activity that goes on here. A lot of different events throughout the year where you can learn about entrepreneurship and also set up shop if you're looking for a place to establish your business. I think Rachel, where are you at? Oh yeah, Rachel and Sarah over there. Just want to give a shout out. They'll be here to give tours of the space right after this event's over. So please do go over and chat with them if you'd like a tour. Okay, moving right along. I think we'll go ahead and bring our first presenter on stage. So give us a minute to switch up the slides and give a big round of applause for Chelsea as she comes up. And we do a standing ovation to bring her on stage. Yes.
Appreciate that. Well, good morning. Thank y'all for coming out. I am Chelsea Claflin. I'm with Fastest Labs of Addison. We are a drug and alcohol testing facility. And so I am actually out of the Addison area. And you might be wondering how I got into the business of testing pee. It's actually a family business, and so at the age of 24, my mother and father actually opened their first franchise, and here I am, ironically, at the age of 24, opening my first franchise, and it just so happens to be the company that they founded back in 2008. And so I'm the 35th franchise, and I do love what I do. I love making the workplace a safer and more efficient place. What sets us apart? So if in your previous life you had a corporate position, you might have had to do a drug test at some point. And so typically what we see in our competitors' facilities is that you're waiting anywhere from 30 minutes, 45 minutes to an hour to come in and do a simple test. So we said we got to do something about that. We have customers in and out within 5 to 10 minutes. In addition to that, we have results reported out immediately. And so instead of waiting 2 to 3 days for results if you're an employer, you're getting those results before they even leave the parking lot. And then in addition to that, we can meet a repricing. I've yet to have a company that I wasn't able to at least meet the pricing that they're receiving. And in addition, they're receiving all of these more efficient processes. So some of our core services, we do quite a bit, but this is just some of our main ones. Rapid urine drug screens are going to be the instant on-the-spot ones that we're able to give results to you in your hand before you walk out. Then we have lab-based urine tests, which those are ones that are going to go off to a lab. So the reason that we recommend that one usually with employers is if you have some type of prescription or medication that you're on, this allows you a chance to explain that to the doctor and then him verify that, and that way it doesn't affect your result for a pre-employment test. Both of those are going to go back 1 to 30 days worth of history, so depending on the drug. Then we have hair testing, which is really interesting. Every 1.5 inches worth of your hair actually tests back 90 days worth of history. So we see those mainly in court case type of scenarios. We have fingernail testing, which actually goes back 6 to 7 months of history. And then we do breath alcohol testing, saliva testing, which is going to be mainly a post-accident type of test. DNA testing, we do everything from genetic wellness to immigration to paternity testing. We do it all. And then background checks for employers as well. Some of our typical customers, so since 1994, the Department of Transportation has regulated all of their agencies to undergo drug testing. So as you can see, that's going to be, people driving the 18-wheelers, the people flying your plane, working on the railroad, pipeline, any of those types of things, they're drug tested, which doesn't that make you feel good to know that they're being drug tested and you're driving next to somebody that is able to be safe next to you. And then we have, court cases, of course, that I mentioned earlier, so custody of children, that type of thing. Then we do agencies that are regulated by the Department of Public Safety, such as, locksmiths. Maybe you may or may not have known that. They're required to be drug tested, and so there's a lot of agencies that we work with. The most common question I get is, what about those who are trying to trick the test? And so what we do is we do our best to combat the trickery. And so some of the most common things you can see listed up here. A lot of people will bring in an adulterant, which is something simply to alter the specimen. So whether they're bringing in a dehydrated powder that they're mixing in with water, whether they're bringing in bleach or something like that to mix in with the specimen. If, for whatever reason, I am not able to catch that or smell it or see that the urine is not yellow, then the lab is able to catch that, and because they're testing for adulterants. So, but most of the time that's something that I can spot on my own with common sense. And then in addition to that, the most common thing that we see is bringing in somebody else's urine. So before a test begins, we do a very thorough inspection. So we're going to ask to see the waistline, front and the back. We're going to ask to see, the tops of your socks. We're going to make sure that there's no, you don't have a jacket on, you don't have a hat on, there's nowhere that something can be stored because we want to comply with the certification that the Department of Transportation has given us. And so those are just a few of the things. Fingernail and hair test can't actually be tricked because they're testing so far back that there's not a way to alter, history from that far back. Biggest tale ever told. I always love this, I always love talking about it, is that I never smoked marijuana. I was just at a party and that's why I tested positive for it. The reason that that is not possible is because it must be inhaled or ingested in order for it to show positive in your test. The reason for that is metabolites. So it's going to be leftover byproducts filtered, broken down in the liver after it's being inhaled or ingested. So what's interesting is our doctor actually did prove that you could literally ride in a car for 4 hours from here to Houston in a car, locked up with somebody smoking marijuana, and you do not test positive for it. And the reason for it, metabolites. It has to be inhaled or ingested for it to show up in your system. And then in addition to that, we have different time frames of detection. So depending on your body, depending on if you work out, if you drink a lot of water, if you eat clean, there's lots of different variants that will determine how long a drug will stay in your system. And I would love to take questions if you have any. Does anybody have any questions?
Okay, so our first question, which is how we do 1 million cups every time, we always ask, what can the local startup community do for you? And so essentially, how can the local audience here get involved or help out with your startup?
Yeah, I think that the most important thing for us is we love to work with companies. That's our main focus. And so if you know of an HR rep that is really, that they didn't used to have a drug testing policy and they're needing to put one in place, we would love to be those people, and we know that we can be the best at it. And so I would appreciate that recommendation and the referral.
Awesome, thanks. And so I'll kind of walk around now with the mic, so if you want to, yeah, just raise your hand and I'll try to come find you.
This may have been on one of your slides, but what's the size of this market in the U.S.?
So it's a $1.5 billion industry, and certainly growing. It's something that, you know, since 1994, the Department of Transportation has been regulated, but since then, especially, which I was kind of talking about this with you a little bit earlier, but especially with the legalization of marijuana, it's becoming an even more growing market because employers are still seeking to see that their employees are showing up to work fully there.
How do you typically attract most of your business?
So we do a lot of door-to-door cold calling. So we're old school. I have a list of people that I'm stopping by, you know, every Monday, saying, hey, I'm down the street from you guys. I would love to help you out if you don't already have the service. And then cold calling as well. And then of course I try to attend networking events, meet people, brush arms with people that are needing the service. So we're pretty old school in the way that but honestly, a second part to that is all of my business for the first 2 months of mine that I was open was all walk-in. And you would be surprised how many people just show up, hey, I need a drug test for XYZ. So.
Hi, good morning. My question is, from your presentation, your focus seems to be very, pretty much on Department of Transportation and safety. Have you looked into performance-enhancing drugs, either on the high school, the collegiate, or professional level, or on those levels to test for PEDs or what have you in the athletic environment?
Yes. So basically, we work with about 8 labs altogether, and between those 8 labs, I can literally test for anything that you want me to test for. Any drug, I can test any item, I can test a cupcake, I've done it. I mean, literally anything that you want tested or any drug that you would want tested.
I just want to follow up to that. For the urine testing, when the person provides a sample, do you do a temperature as well?
Yes.
So that kind of helps
Yes.
with the altering of it? Or
Correct, yeah, and that's a great point because, you know, someone who would be bringing in a specimen, for example, it might be 10 degrees hotter than the normal temperature of urine or colder than that. And so that's a huge...
98.6.
Exactly. That's a huge...
Not that I know about these.
I'm allowed to do it. But yeah, that's exactly right. We definitely do that.
Hello. My name is Tyler. So my question for you, you're basically a storefront. Like you can do the simple urine analysis in your location. The rest of it you're sending to labs that are not connected to you. I mean, you've got partnerships with them, but you're not actually
Correct.
part of your franchise.
Correct. We would be considered a collection facility. And so every specimen, the only thing that we're going to provide you results on the spot for is the rapid urine test, which is the bulk of our business. But at the same time, anything that has to do with DNA or a lab-based test, yes, we're sending it off overnight and we're having those results back within 48 business hours.
So this might be outside the scope of your business and specifically like your franchise, but I know that testing labs across the nation usually have a gigantic backlog, sometimes months to more than months, for more stringent testing. Is that something that you guys have looked at all?
I'm not sure if I quite understand that. What do you mean a backlog on the testing?
So I actually read an article on this several days ago talking about like forensic labs and how there were only several in the nation that could handle, if you're looking at, I mean, I guess it's not for like car wrecks and things like that where you need to get it as quickly, but where they're speaking about like there's 3 labs in the States that can handle testing for, I'm not sure, I guess it's higher level,
things maybe?
I'm not sure, but they were talking about there might be a 6 to 9 month backlog before, say, investigators are getting results back on this.
I mean, I work with 5 of the top 35 SAMHSA certified labs. I don't experience backlog with any of them. Maybe in certain parts of the states, that's something that has happened and that they've experienced. That's not something that I've experienced. We've had results as normal, which is good. That would be a problem, 6 to 9 months. I'm wondering what they're doing.
Good presentation.
Thank you.
How large is your facility, and what do you look for in terms of the real estate when you're doing a new one?
Absolutely. So you really don't need a lot of space. You need a bathroom, you need a counter to have them sign and have them set the cup on. And you need a little private area to be able to do collections for hair and saliva swaps. So my facility is 700 square feet. And that is the average of what most people do. Some of the larger offices that have been around since 2008 have since grown out of theirs and moved to facilities with 2 or 3 bathrooms in order to help more people. But that's not something that's necessary, especially starting out. And so it's a super simple location. What am I trying to say? We don't have to have a place that is well visible or well seen because it's certainly a destination spot. Employers are saying, go to this address right now. So that's kind of a plus side. We really don't have a lot of overhead and we don't have to have a big fancy storefront because people are coming to us with a purpose.
All right, well, this may seem like an odd question, but I know that this comes up. Y'all ever have to, how do you handle when the employer or the court is making you watch them? So, because they know they've been perpetual cheaters before, so you have to watch them. I know that sort of thing comes up.
Yes, so there's a couple different circumstances that what you're referring to would be called observed testing. So there's a couple different circumstances where that would be required. It could either be a probation officer requesting it, it could be the CPS requesting it, it could be the court requesting it. In that situation, it does, the law does state that it has to be a male observing a male or a woman observing a woman. And essentially what that does is it completely eliminates any chance of the specimen not being from them. Yeah, that's not the most fun part of the job.
Any other questions out there?
Thank you, Chelsea. What is your growth plan? Like once, let's say in 3 years, for example, if business is going well, what would be the next step for you?
Right. So I'm engaged. I'm getting married in February.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. My fiance and I are actually planning to open 5 franchises within the DFW area. And so the goal would be that as soon as this one is profitable enough to support both of our living lifestyles fully to where we're comfortable, which is going to be about a year from now, that we open our 2nd franchise location, and I am planning to be in the Irving area.
Awesome. Yeah, I had one as well, which is kind of what was your biggest obstacle thus far that you had to sort of overcome in getting your franchise up and running?
Yeah, I would say for me that I love talking to people. I love being of help, but for some reason there was definitely a mental block there for me starting out to step out on the cold calling and be extremely, extremely confident. That was a huge obstacle for me because I love talking on the phone. I love, sealing the deal on the phone. That's my strong point. But when it comes to face-to-face going out, that's something that I really, really had to get over and push myself through because it was not something that I was waking up like super excited to do, but obviously it's something that I needed to do in order to get the phone calls and mail them.
Awesome. We got time for about 1 or 2 more. Do we have any other questions in the audience?
Who or what do you see as your biggest threat in the next year? Is it competition, regulation, or something?
Yeah, I think that the biggest threat would certainly be the speed factor. And so what we see already with some of our, specifically one other competitor, is that they're starting to realize, hey, employers are realizing that their employees are sitting in that waiting room for an hour, and they're paying wages on that, they're paying they're paying everything, and they're also not producing any work. And so I think that our biggest threat is certainly people starting to realize that time is a huge issue and starting to improve on their time frames that they're getting customers tested. So, and that would only be for the smaller facilities. The reason that our competitors are not going to be someone like Concentra or Quest is because they're a medical facility. Doesn't matter what they do, it's going to be 30 minutes to an hour wait because they're a medical facility, and that's just how it goes.
My question is also related somehow to regulation, and specifically, I'd like to know how are you regulated, and how you are regulated, and also, given that now we live in an environment where we talk about data and big data and artificial intelligence and all of that, have there been any attempts to maybe grow the business through tapping into some of the knowledge, albeit maybe anonymized, but is it, or do the relationships stop at just giving the result and that's it?
Right.
I mean, is there anything that now in the industry, that's with your franchise,
Right.
that's happening around that and gaining some knowledge that is of value to somebody else as a
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's a great question. That's another one of our services that I wasn't able to list and speak about. We do offer drug policies that we construct for you. And so we're not only providing the service in an efficient way, we are coaching our employers. We're coaching them to make sure that they're trained for things like reasonable suspicion. You can't be suspicious of an employee and just send them in to be tested without being certified as a reasonable suspicion certified. I don't know what word I'm trying to say there. So we provide that service and that class for them to take. It's an online class. And then we also have things like the drug test policies that we create, which focus on the things that are most left out of whenever companies are creating drug policies for their company, which is going to be, not being all-inclusive in what they test for. So there's a lot of different things. There's random, there's a post-accident situation, there's, come on, Chelsea, random, post-accident, and then pre-employment. And so there's a large range of testing that sometimes is not covered in the policy, and then they're sitting there.
So within the current regulatory environment, I come to you and I want to the health enforcement take on how many positives we have for certain things, and maybe try to really have, if we have one team, two is correlated to the graphics or to geographical, is that within the regulatory policy? Because you sit on a lot of data, and then if you keep it, you're allowed to keep it, you sanitize it before you change it. That was my question.
Right. So you're speaking specifically to the results that I keep?
Yeah, that's one of the things said that maybe there's somebody somewhere as the regulation to really addressing it.
Right.
Because that could be a radical data in the environment where everything's given.
Right, and that's true. That type of information is definitely considered confidential, and so
Even after sanitizing, maybe you need to be ignoring and say, I have three positives. And they come one from Addison, one from Energient, one from
right,
even that, a lot of things.
right, exactly. So whether you're an individual or whether here's the best way to answer that question for you. Whoever's paying for the test gets to choose who sees the results.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, Chelsea. Let's give her
Thank you
a
all.
round of applause. Okay, you guys can still hear me back there? Yeah, it does take something to come up here and get on stage and put yourself in front of an audience of strangers, so keep that in mind when the presenters get up, that they're, really giving you guys some extra effort by coming out here and presenting to, this amazing audience. Next up, I want to shout out again to our sponsors, Next Media, hook myself with a coffee, Michael Bruner Productions, where are you at, Michael? Yeah, there he is, right there in the back. For two, and of course the deck. I also wanted to plug Dallas Startup Week. You guys see me wearing my hoodie all the time, so that's going to be April 2nd through the 6th. Mark your calendars. We're thinking about doing something special here for 1 million cups during that week. So yeah, stay tuned for that.
Project EDU. Tomorrow.
Project EDU is a thing that's happening tomorrow. That's happening here tomorrow. If you're interested in education, I think you should go to that. And yeah, without further ado, we'll bring up our next presenter, Energient. Awesome. Well, let's stand up and give her a round. Welcome her on stage.
Hello, and thank you everybody for coming today. My name is Randy Handelman, and I am Vice President of Strategy and Business Development for Energient. Energient, for those of you who are Star Trek fans, was born on May 4th. Get it? Yeah, we're a bunch of geeks in the company. They say necessity is the mother of inventions, and Energient is definitely true to that. It started when EPC, for those who don't know, it's an engineering, procurement, and contracting company, had some customers that were in need of a way to monitor and control their energy system. Sorry. Wow, it's really close. Sorry about that. So anyways, they were requesting that they wanted to have some way to monitor and control their energy generation system. And they also wanted to display this and also show to everybody what their cost savings would be. So they went to Sims Engineering, which was one of their contractors, and Joe Sims, who is also on our board, came to Will and John, who are the founders of Energient, and said, we need this help. Can you help us out? They're PhDs in engineering and computer science. So they developed, the three of them, developed the Energient functionality. So Energient's focuses on the monitoring and control systems. However, with Joe's engineering background and with Will and John's advanced energy generation background as well, and my work with energy storage systems, solar systems, and fuel cell systems, we decided that we could take this even a step further. So we have the engineering background, we have the installation design, as well as monitoring and control to put together optimized energy generation and utilization systems. It's a long shopping list of features that we have within the EMO, and EMO stands for Energy Management and Operations. And as you can see from these features, the greatest ones that we have are the real-time monitoring, the ability to manage the generation and utilization, but also the system's flexibility. And that's the big key, is the flexibility. A lot of the companies out there that are competitors do not have this flexibility or adaptability to what the customer needs, which we do. Also, we have predictive analytics, so we analyze the weather that's coming in, so we understand what your generation is going to be based on what solar panels or wind you're using or fuel cell you're using, and we can actually predict whether or not the system's operationally doing its function. Also, we can set up alerts so that if there's anything functionality-wise that's happening within the system, we can predict those as well, and also warn you either via text or phone call or however you want it to be managed. Some of our current projects, we work with commercial, community. We can do systems on individual, off-grid, on-grid, integrated grid. We can disconnect from the grid, so you can have literally micro energy system. This is just one of our screenshots. There's many. This is the one that one of our customers requested. So you can see the energy generation at a particular time instantaneously. You can see the utilization instantaneously. You can do comparative analysis to what's happened in the past, what happened yesterday, what happened, last month, last week, whatever you want to know, or any data or reports that you want, we can generate. So our strategy is to establish EMO as the most advanced and flexible system available. We want to learn from the system that we're developing, so we call it basically the total control system, and then scale that down so that it can be flexible and utilized all the way down to the home-based systems. And we want to utilize our relationships to actually be able to design, engineer, and install microgrid systems for any size or any company. Now this is a huge chart, I'm not going to go into detail, but on the right-hand side you can see that's the total control system. That was our first customer, the EPC that came to us and said this is what we want it to do, and it does everything. And then over to the left, we're cascading the technology over from the logger system, for example. It doesn't have cloud storage. So if you just want to know instantly what's happening, but you have the total control, you can do that. All the way down to a home-based system where you can just basically plug it into your system. The other thing that we do is we connect with your IoT. So anything that's connected in your home or in your business or in your community through IoT, we connect to that and we can relay that information as well. Here's my wants. Environmentally conscientious companies that are interested in reducing their energy bills. We're looking to partner with energy generation companies that are interested in utilizing the EVO system. And we can white label that or put it in different ways, or leave it depending on what the relationship is going to be. Supply I'm answering your question.
For somebody to get started, I realize it's me this time. All right, so first question, what can we as a community do to help you out? I know you can answer part of that if you want to finish.
I'll go back to that. Actually, we're looking for partners who are actually energy generation systems, or companies that generate energy that want to have a monitoring system. So we'll partner with those people and do their energy monitoring systems. The second would be any company that or business or builder or EPC that's interested in total solutions. We can provide that with our engineering, with our generation partners, as well as with the monitoring and control systems. And then the third thing, obviously, is the strategy that I presented, what we're trying to do, go from the total control all the way down to the home. And does that make sense? And what we're doing sounds reasonable.
Thank you. All right, next question.
Well, thank you very much. This is very interesting. If my question is too technical, we can take it offline. But let me make sure I understand. You can come into the home and connect to an IoT gateway or basically a gateway. Are you able to work with existing energy providers and tap into the smart meter, or do you have to be a parallel system to whatever gateway, which is a smart meter in this case, is?
Right, we can tap in for the information as far as what the utilization is.
You can control it,
We haven't gotten into the control factor for the smart meter because the smart meter is set up from, but it has to be by itself.
But would you envision, and even if it's not in this country, architecturally your system, would you envision working with a provider when you take over the management and the control of the smart meter?
We can if
So
they're interested. Technically, you're capable, yes.
All right, next question.
what battery technology are you guys, so you mentioned that you've worked in fuel cells and batteries storage. What technology are you guys seeing as the most feasible for buildings and stuff right now?
It definitely depends on what you're trying to do with it. I personally like this technology. It's zinc manganese dioxide. The basic reason I like it is because it's not flammable. You can put it indoors or outdoors. When you think of lithium ion and you put it into a home or business, when the fire department comes out, they're a little bit afraid. It's a little scary, and you have to have a shut-off system for it, where this other system you don't have it. The differential, though, is how much storage you get in the space that you have. So lithium ion basically holds more energy than the other technology, but if you have the space, then I would go with the other. So it's definitely dependent on what you're trying to do with it.
I'll throw in one question. What do you see as what's your closest competitor? Is there a lot of it, or is it pretty niche market at this point?
It's somewhat niche as far as the markets that they have set up. So there's basically the home, and then there's the community, and then there's the large scale microgrids. And our competitors would be like Greensmith. This one would I consider our main competitor. But then you have the Siemens of the world, and you have the Eaton's, and you have the Schneider. But they're huge and they're not flexible. So that's why I said our advanced and flexibility is what will be the key to make us better. And then compared to some of the other ones that do the home systems, we're taking this major technology with total control and bringing it all the way down to the home, and we'll compete with them with the best technology at a reasonable price. So we're getting it down. We're hoping for the home between $1,000 and $1,500.
Thanks.
Hey, similar question what I asked before to Chelsea, but what was kind of your biggest obstacle as an entrepreneur in this process? Or if you want to take it another way and say, kind of what advice would you share to a new entrepreneur based on what you've learned kind of in general?
Learn to be broke for a long period of time. Investing in yourself. I mean, we invest a lot in technology, and basically that's where it's going to lie. Understand your competitors and position yourself in the marketplace. As far as what we want to do is find the customer partners. Customers out there that really appreciate this technology and can partner with us. I'm not saying invest in us. What I'm saying is buy our product, and let us develop it. Use that money to move forward and invest even further into the product itself.
Hi, my name is Mackenzie. Can you talk about some of the benefits for energy for on the large scale commercial side all the way down to the home, like either case study wise or what companies experience by having this system?
Okay. I'll give you an example that would probably be the easiest. We have farms that come to us and that are utilizing a lot of energy. Like their electric bills are around $250,000 a year on average. And if they went off, that's connected to the grid. If they went to off-grid, then their payback could be within 3 or 4 years, and then they have zero electric bill. So it depends. Again, that's why I say we have about 10 to 15 different types of generation systems that we would look at, and it would be based on what the need and utilization are. Whether you need a fixed base load or whether you have a lot of cycles within your electrical utilization. So it's not like an end-all be-all, like storage or anything. There isn't one technology that's going to be the whiz of the world and be the savior. So
more the reason people want the system is because they save money.
Yes. Period. Save money. And you're going really conscientious as well, and you want to be, the other one is stability, electricity stability. There's a lot of fluctuation, and if you can't have fluctuation in your electricity for various reasons, hospitals and things like that don't want fluctuation. They want to have clean energy, And what I mean by continuing is that it's giving the same rate at all times. I don't know if you know in Dallas that it actually varies quite a bit.
So what's the underlying communication layer for your systems, whether it's at home or in a large installation? Is it a stand line over the top? You use existing telecommunication or communication layer? Any specifics for that, specifically for the home? Are you going over the top?
That's a technical, I'll ask what they're utilizing. I don't know offhand. I think they're negotiating with several different methods of utilizing.
So I can
it
imagine
is cloud-based.
It's cloud, yeah, but I mean, I can imagine maybe in a large installation, whether it's a farm or a community, you may have your own
It would be
communication infrastructure.
It would be land-based.
Land-based, but when you tap into a home environment, you go purely over the top.
Probably over the, yes, because the cost of doing land-based, unless the home has its own land system.
All right, okay.
So how do you set up your I should call it the pricing model? Are you a subscription based or is it a licensing fee? And is it a combination of software and hardware?
This is, there's a large amount of hardware associated with this. Are you talking about for a home or for a microgrid?
You don't say microgrid.
Well, for a microgrid, it has to, it's a huge control panel that has to be installed. And that's connected to, like if you have solar, it's connected to each inverter. So it understands what each panel is doing. It does panel temperature, it does all monitoring of the whole entire system. So there's a lot of hardware involved with it. And then the software as well. And the software is the information and how you want it. That's the flexibility part of it.
So do you have a recurring revenue in terms of a license or?
No, you pay for the installation, the actual hardware and the unit. We're thinking about for the home, doing a subscription base like for Ring, if you're aware, you have to pay $30 a year to have your stuff saved to the cloud. We were thinking maybe doing something similar because there is cost as far as running your stuff in the cloud. So yes, from a home subscription, yes. From the other, they would just be paying for their information, their own system as far as.
I'm curious to know how are you marketing it? Are you marketing it from a cost-saving perspective, or is it environmental, or both?
Yes. Yeah, we're marketing it throughout. My biggest thing right now is we live downtown in high-rise, and right now I'm sending the information about our building and our energy utilization to our engineers, and we're seeing if there's going to be a cost saving for putting a system on the roof of our building, and if so, how much will it cost to put up there and what our payback analysis will be. And if that comes through as being economical, then I'm going to propose it to our HOA, and then we'll be doing an installation downtown.
What's economical? And how fast?
Well, that's up to the board. What we would do is come back and, let's say, for example, you own you're in a high rise and the payback's 5 years, which means that after 5, and we do financing too, but after 5 years, you have a zero electric bill. Is that worth it to you? Do you want 2 years? Do you want 3 years? That's what you have to propose back to the customer, potential customer, and say your payback is going to be 5 years. And does that work for you? Now, if you're a farm and you're paying $250,000 a year in electricity, and in 5 years you're paying zero, might not be so bad, right?
What is the hardware buy-in for like a residential, a house?
And again, it depends on what your utilization is and where your house is located. We would have to do the analysis. What we're doing for builders is what we're going to talk, if there's any builders out there, what we'd like to do is do one home for them, set it up as their model in their model home, and then if other people want it, we can have the analysis there and let them know that if they want the system installed, then this is what the cost would be and their savings over time.
This just came to my mind through the conversations that you're having with people here. What happens if I install this in my home and the payoff, I pay it off within 3 or 4 years, and then it's free afterwards. Now I want to sell my house.
It's an asset.
Is that an asset I'm selling with the house, or can I transport this with me and then have to pay for the installation and everything again?
You probably want to leave it with the house as an asset, especially if you're actually doing the generation. What you would do is say, let's say you have it, so it's designed to do your full amount of your energy utilization. You don't really have to tap into the grid at all. Then when you go to sell it, the electric bill, you always ask, how much is your electric bill, how much is your gas bill, how much are your taxes and all that. Well, now their electric bill is 0. So it's definitely a selling point.
Since you're in this space, do you see potential for electric vehicles to provide distributed power during peak generation, when peak generation is needed? Do you see that as a, there's a lot of people that talk about fleet of Teslas, powering the grid for that short time, things like that?
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. I laugh because I don't know if you heard of Project Better Place. Anybody heard of it? It's dead now. But their idea was to do... That's why I'm laughing, because what happened is I was working with the CEO of Project Better Place, and they were going to put electric vehicles in countries around the world and have batteries swap out, and then you would just pay like a lease plan. You would just pay for your kilometers or miles that you drove, and regardless of, you would just go by their station and get a new battery, or plug into their charging station and plug in. I said, that's wonderful, I'll take a car under your plan, and I'm going to go plug it into my house, and run my whole house, and then go back and exchange the battery. So anyways, they would lost money, and obviously it died, but it can be done. It's a matter of, if that's the case, you may as well, you can just put batteries in your home and charge them on off-peak and then use the energy on peak. To do it with your car, what if you need, the problem I always have is what if you need your car and it's just charging to your house, and now you don't have enough to go where you want to go. So, yes, it could be done. Flexibility and feasibility, obviously it's not being done too much right now, but there's, it's definitely possible.
All right, and we've run out of time. It's actually the last one. So thank you very much.
All right, what'd you guys think of that? Pretty awesome. Give it up one more time for looking for winners. Quick shout out to our team of volunteers. There's all of us. Come say hi after the event if you want to get involved with 1 Million Cups. We love to meet potential volunteers and people who want to help keep this event going. That too, if you're interested in having your company sponsor this event, come up and talk to us after. We see some of our sponsors here regularly. We love you guys. See Mackenzie over there. So thank you guys again for coming out. Happy New Year to everybody. And again, 1 Million Cups every Wednesday right here at the deck. There's also chapters now in Frisco and Fort Worth. Maybe also I heard Arlington might be coming online. So definitely check it out. And thank you again. So afterwards, be sure to stick around and network. Come up and introduce yourself to the presenters if you want to get in touch. We also have their social media information right here on the whiteboard if you want to look them up that way. Let's see. That's a wrap. Thank y'all for coming out. Thank you.